we're supposed to be a family where we're all kind of supporting what we like. By all
Mhm.
means, write a critical review, do a critical pot. But
Yeah.
there's that, and then there's also just like beating stuff down. It's like a lot of people
Yeah.
worked hard to make this movie. Even if you don't like it, even if you hate it, it's like
Mhm.
we can't discount the work that went into it. No one sets out to make a
Sure.
bad project.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum, and welcome back to another episode of Saturday Horror Movie Reviews. Today, I am joined by Robby Horror, who I met through some mutual friends. I talk about Scott. I have a series with Scott. Mark has been on my channel, but I think the first episode, or the only episode so far that I've heard you on, was the Resident Evil. Were you on Resident Evil?
Yeah, it was the most recent Resident Evil.
The most recent.
Yeah.
Welcome to Raccoon City. That's right.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And yeah, so I went to follow him after I listened to that episode. And then when I talked about on Twitter about doing horror movie reviews, we connected. And so that's what we're going to do today. And today, in case it's not super obvious, we're going to talk about the 2007 Halloween anthology, Trick or Treat.
Woo!
Yay. So it feels weird doing when you do older movies and you talk about their ratings. It almost feels like they don't even really exist. Their ratings, like they don't, especially for movies like this, right? So, but so it has a 6.7 out of 10 on IMDb. I don't know what Just Watch is, but it has a 77% on that, 83% on Google. And its audience score on Rotten Tomatoes is 72, which is pretty good for a horror movie. Interwoven stories demonstrate that some traditions are best not forgotten. As the residents of a small town face real ghosts and goblins on Halloween, tales of terror reveal the consequences of extinguishing a jack-o'-lantern before midnight and a grumpy hermit's encounter with a sinister trick-or-treater. Cute. That doesn't give too much away. I'm always happy about that. Sometimes you read the synopsis and it tells you like the whole movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what if you had to give this like a star rating out of like 10? Where does this kind of sit for you?
Oh man, as far as nostalgia and just impact on my annual Halloween festivities, a 10 out
Yeah.
of 10. Objectively speaking, probably an 8.5, I'd say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually a 9 out of 10 for me. So
Yeah.
we're pretty close. Yeah, this is a really fun movie. I think as far as Unspoil goes, one of the things that I say like religiously is like if it's a horror anthology, I'm going to give it a chance because I love them so much. They are so fun. And I think that we need like a lot, I need more of them. Like every time they do them, they're really well done. And this is one that, I mean, has just kind of stood the test of time. Like people still talk about this movie. There's so many people watch this every year, around this time. And it was just recently in the theaters for the first time, I
Mhm.
think, since like special showings a while ago. And but there's two things that I think are really strong about this film that I really liked. I love that there's this bigger story that everything is actually kind of happening at the same time, or there's like a pathway that the story takes, but that all of the little stories in between are all pretty unique. And then they all come back like full circle. And not all anthologies do that. Some anthologies, it's like everything is very separate. And I love that this just kind of is like everything together. And I just think I love the look of this movie. I love the colors. I love the gore. I love the atmosphere of the decorations, the set pieces, everything. It just really set the tone for like a really fun and unique Halloween movie.
No, I couldn't agree more. I mean, like, I think I saw the trailer probably in 2007. I think
Mm-hmm.
if it was officially direct to DVD in 2009, but for two
Yeah.
years, I've been kind of watching this trailer, sharing it with other horror fans, be like, this movie looks incredible.
Yeah.
I think it was Universal Studios or Legendary that produced and distributed it, but I was like,
Yeah.
what are they waiting for? Like, this movie looks, given the talent involved, given the
Yeah.
talent behind the screen, the movie looks like $1 million just per the trailer.
Yeah.
I just couldn't imagine, unless the movie just sucks,
Yeah.
what's preventing them from releasing it in theaters and having the movie sell itself. In
Yeah.
2009, we finally got the film, and it's become an annual staple of my Halloween kind of tradition. That Hocus
Yeah.
Pocus, Halloween. There's a few other ones, but
Mm-hmm.
as you
Yeah.
said, I just think it's a fun, beautifully done film.
Mhm.
that really encapsulates the color, the festivity of the holiday, the mischief. And as far as anthologies go, we love, there's like, I can't even count how many anthology films and series. There's Creepshow, Goosebumps, there's
Tales from the Crypt, Tales
Tales
from
from the
the
Crypt,
Dark
Tales from the Dark
Side.
Side.
There's so many.
There's countless of them. But as you
Mhm.
said, what makes this one really special is that it's got like a Pulp Fiction vibe in which where it starts is right back where it ends. Along the way, there's tons of misdirection in terms of what's happening when,
Yes.
who's involved with this. Um,
Mhm.
and I think one of the pleasures of seeing it a second time, or in our case, I'm sure like the dozenth time, is just seeing how the different stories not only interlock, but the way
Mhm.
that there's little clues throughout of where every other story is at that time,
Yep.
and the way that certain stories are completed and reach their
Mhm.
resolution in another story. So I just think from a scripting standpoint, Michael Dougherty just did a fantastic job giving us what we love about anthologies in that each section has its own very different
Sure.
flavor and sensibility, but
Mhm.
just kind of rewarding film fans in general by saying, yes, it's very intelligent in the way that it goes about it. And as you said, aesthetically, the film is just every shot is like a painting.
Mhm.
It's
It really
beautifully
is.
done, beautifully assembled. It's intense, it's creepy, it's funny, very, very funny, in fact. And
Yeah.
I just think from start to finish, it's wonderful the first time, but
Mhm.
I think what keeps people coming back is that each time there's something new you're going to notice, and I think
Yeah.
that's a film with a lot of foresight into it.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree. It has a lot of, rewatch value for sure. I agree with that.
absolutely.
And it doesn't and even aside from adding, the things that you notice that you didn't notice before, it's still even like, it just doesn't seem to lose any of its magic. Like, I think all the parts that made me excited the first time I ever saw them, I'm just as excited, the next time or whatever. Like, I just feel the same. I look forward to the same parts. There's just things that I look forward to as I'm watching, almost like I've only seen it, like, or I've never seen it and it's like the first time. Like, I just think it's like it's really great at keeping you engaged and captivated even on a third, fifth, 100 watch.
Absolutely. And I mean, the fact is, the movie's only, what, 87 minutes long, not
Yeah,
even an hour and a half. It moves by so quickly,
it
which,
does.
on one hand, I wish the movie was 2 hours, like
Yeah.
just full stop. I wish it kept going. But at the
Yeah.
same time, it's edited so well, and
Mhm.
each shot is condensed just as much as it needs to be.
Yeah.
That, like you said, it never once gets boring. It never once loses
No.
its flavor, or
Yeah.
its intensity, or its momentum. And I think that same thing with like something like Hocus Pocus, which I'm not sure how you feel about it, but every year I go back to it and something about it. There's something in the alchemy of the filmmaking that watching it, it feels
Yeah.
as if I'm a kid again, just watching it and
Oh,
just
yeah.
like I get so amped for it, and it's just I'm like,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
I definitely no, I Hocus Pocus is an annual thing for me. I no, I completely agree, and I really liked the comparison to Pulp Fiction, which is like my number one favorite
Mhm.
movie of all time, horror aside. I hadn't even, amazingly enough, like, I didn't even think about it that way, but I love that you made that comparison because that's one of the reasons Pulp Fiction works so well, is it has all of those among a million other things, but it has like all of these interconnecting pieces that are like and I know, like, when we get to spoilers, I'm probably going to touch on some of the things that, like, I like, you notice as you've seen it, and like these moments that are like, oh, that's from what we've already seen, or this is gonna, or like, you kind of go back and you can see those things. Yeah, it's a very, very, very well done film. And it's kind of, I feel like, just in the last few years has kind of picked up a little bit more of like a cult following. I felt like kind of before, you found, you could find your Michael Myers stuff, your Halloween stuff, or whatever. But it just seems like in the last like 5 years or so, there's a lot more stuff. Like, there's more trick or treat gear. There's like you can get like the figurines and stuff, and it seems to be like people are. I don't know if it's just people are like talking about it more, or if more people are discovering it, or what. But it seems like it's gained a little bit more popularity just in the last few years or so.
I think, for me at least, every year I can say that there's been at least one gathering or party.
Mhm.
Just last year I bought it. I had, some friends were having a, little Halloween,
Yeah,
drink, and they, ordering pizza and
yeah,
watching something. And I was like, "You
yeah,
guys seen Trick or Treat?" And there was like six of them. They're like, "What's that?" And I was like,
yeah.
"Sit down." And then and then we watched it, and they loved it, and they like, and just getting to experience it again through them, and
Hmm.
just, we know all the twists, we know all the little, nuances and stuff, but just getting to see their reaction to all the different surprises in the film was so worth that viewing. And I had a
Yeah.
great time just watching the film anyway, but watching them kind of be like,
See it. Oh,
oh, that's what that is, or that's who's under the mask and whatnot. But yeah,
yeah.
I went to a Spirit Halloween just a few weeks ago to get a couple of things, and all of a sudden I saw like a full size Sam mannequin, and I was like, "This is one." I think what's happening is that every year more and more people are like, "Have you guys seen this film?" And
Yeah.
people
And then
go,
it,
"No," and then they show it, and then
it
and because it's so good, I
yeah.
can't imagine a lot of people, especially horror fans, not being like, "Where's this movie been? I need this right now. I need to watch it again right now," and then showing it to their friends.
Instant fans. Yeah, I can't imagine it. And I don't think I know anybody that at least not in any of the horror circles that I'm a part of. I don't know anybody that's ever like badmouthed this film. Like I don't know anybody that's ever torn it apart or hated it. I mean, obviously, I'm sure there has to be somebody, right? But it doesn't seem to be as common. It seems like it does tend to be one that, if you're a horror fan, like a lot of people really do, they fall in love with it.
Well, interesting you said, because this year I'm part of like an LGBTQ like horror Facebook page,
Yeah.
and this movie came up for discussion,
Oh,
and
okay.
and of course, inevitably, the more popular a film gets, there's going to be some people who are like, eh,
Oh,
and so of course there are people who are like, oh, it's not that great, and it's okay, and I was like, well, what didn't you like about it? Like,
hmm.
what were your caveats? And their thing was it was too campy, it was too silly, and it also didn't have a focal point. And I was like, all right, well, I was like, that seems more of like a problem that you have with the format, the fact that it doesn't have a central character or a central theme.
Yeah.
That I can understand. And also the fact that it's too campy. I mean, like, I don't even know what to say to that. Like,
Yeah.
it's they didn't have a problem with the film. It's just it's not their kind of film.
Right.
So to your point, it's hard to imagine anyone who likes anthologies and who
Yeah.
enjoys Creepshow, for instance, or EC
Yes.
Comics, not watching this and being like, I need a thousand movies like this.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. Yeah. No, it's a really solid film in general. I think that it's funny because I'm late to, or was later to the discovery of this film. I was much older. But I actually saw like clips of things before I ever saw the full movie. So I knew, like, kind of going into it, some of the things I was looking forward to. And I bring that up to say that I still honestly feel like it didn't rob me of anything. Like I still felt like I saw some things, like there's a couple things in particular that I saw as far as like just it's like a couple minutes, right? Like just like 2 or 3 minutes of something. And I was like, oh, like, but I went into the film knowing that I had already seen these parts, and I still didn't feel like, oh, I've already seen this. Like, I still felt like really compelled by it because there's so many things I hadn't seen, and there's so many things that build up to these moments that I was already looking forward to. I just think it's really well made. And I think it's interesting because I know a lot of people, are talking about this one specifically right now. Like there's a lot of podcasts and stuff that are talking about it, covering it, posting, reviewing it, just everything. And it makes me excited because, to your point, now that's another way to like get more people to see it. People who haven't seen the film are hearing all these people talk about it all of a sudden, and now they'll go see it too for the first time.
No, definitely. Even on my social media, like I posted about, because actually I did see it with my partner at AMC in upstate Connecticut
Yeah.
this past weekend. And
Yeah.
number one, just seeing it on a big screen, the way that it was meant to be seen in the first place. Sorry, Universal, I don't know what you were doing there. Um, but
Yeah.
just seeing how even in 2022, it looks incredible on a big
Yeah.
screen. It sounds incredible,
Oh,
which speaks to the budget and the faith that the studio had in it. Clearly, it's not some low budget thing.
right.
There's Oscar winning actors and Emmy award, all that
Yes.
stuff. Um,
Mhm. Yeah.
but yeah, there's something about the kind of puzzle box format of the film. It's not just an anthology, as we've said.
Yeah.
There's a bajillion things happening, and in the span of 5 minutes, you're getting tastes of a bunch of different stories. So even if a certain shot or maybe part of a reveal is already given to you just by
Yeah.
happenstance, it's older, like it's going to happen.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that anything will be spoiled for you.
No.
So for those who have not seen it, even if you've seen trailers and clips of it, I guarantee you there's 20 times as many things that you won't see coming. And it's, I think even people who are good at picking up on clues might not pick it up because, again, there's
Yeah.
so many things happening and it's done completely out of sequence that there are certain twists you can't possibly predict,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, and I do think that is yeah, I definitely agree. I think that that is another thing it does really well is the twists are held off until like just the right amount of time. They're executed in a manner that is very misleading, and then
Hmm.
you're like, "Oh, I knew it." And then it's like, "Oh, no, I didn't know it." Like
Yeah.
it's very like it just is mind-boggling. Like the fact that and then because they're able to do it to you multiple times because of these different stories that are all, connected back to one another is yeah, just a testament to how well it's written and how well it was put together. Because like I see stuff, I watch so many movies, I see things all the time that 15 minutes in I can tell you everything that's going to happen. I can't. Yeah.
It's true. Yeah.
You watch enough of it, you learn patterns and you start to recognize things like you're like, oh, okay, like, and and sometimes it's fine, it works itself out, or there's other things that compensate for that or whatever. But that was not like that with this film. This film is one of those things where you're just like, they get you in this thought process of like what's going to happen next, and it's wrong. Like it's just like, and then it goes in like a totally different direction and you're just like, huh, okay, and then you're surprised. And it but it happens more than once, which is such a fun thing to experience because that's not very common.
Absolutely. And even if you're someone who's a particularly attuned viewer and you can pick out
Mhm.
a couple things,
Yeah.
there's more to the film than just the twist. There's the entire aesthetic of the film, which is every time I watch it, especially on the big screen, so many like pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns and costumes and leaves blowing, so many shots that are just breathtaking that you're just like
Yeah.
there's an artfulness to the way that it's told that I feel like anyone who appreciates movies, period, can appreciate that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and there's just entire drawn out, like I'm thinking about Brian Cox's story, Mr. Krieg. That entire thing doesn't really
Yeah.
rely on a twist necessarily.
No.
Well, but at the later on,
Yeah.
but that one's all about the kind of slow burn intensity, and it just keeps escalating from there. And that's part of the joy of the film. There's so many different types of pleasures to glean from it.
Yeah, it has like a little bit of everything. Like it's that, and that's like and not, even other horror anthologies don't do that to that extent where everything is so vastly different. Like if you like, monsters, there's something for you. If you like people stuff, there's something for you. If you like there's all these like little things that are all into this one film. It's like a little bit of something for anybody that's a fan of the genre because it goes across like all kinds of subject matter and interest. And it's just yeah. And the thing I think that always blows my mind is the ability to make all of this flow so well
Hmm.
because it is out of order and not everything is the exact same as far as what's going on. We're not following, a guy in a jumpsuit with a knife around one town. There's all these things that are happening, like you said, all around us at the same time. A lot is going on. And it's just so amazing to me that how well it flows. There's no breakup in the flow of the way that this movie tells its story. And I don't know, it's just really impressive to me.
It's extremely ambitious on his part. I mean, like you said, there's the downtown scenes, there's the suburbs,
Yeah.
there's the woods, there's the rock quarry, there's all these different types of locations. In each one has its own very specific energy,
Hmm.
its own different type of humor. There's
Yes.
there's like the movie's very funny, but it's either extremely dark or extremely playful.
Hmm.
There's whimsy to it.
Yes.
And so like I said, if one thing doesn't scare you or make you laugh your ass off, give
Yeah.
it a minute. There's probably something
Something
coming
there.
that'll appeal more to you. You know,
Yeah, I agree. You just gotta
just
like
wait
get
wait
through
30
whatever the
seconds or so.
yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, I think that's probably all I have to say that doesn't spoil anything.
Yeah,
So if you're ready, we can jump into spoilers and just talk about whatever.
let's do it.
Okay. So I have to say this. So the segment I saw the most before I ever saw the movie was the werewolf scene.
Oh, was that part spoiled for you?
No,
Okay.
I especially not the part where I'm drawing a total blank on the character's name, the
Lori?
teacher.
Oh, Mr. Wilkins?
Yeah. So him being like the guy with the fangs and like
Yeah.
he, and I mean none of that was ruined because the only part I saw was the werewolves. Like there's like the scenes where for just like a couple seconds you see just the ones that have kind of already changed.
Yeah.
So I was like, and werewolves are like, oh my God, they make my heart beat fast. I love werewolves. And so I already, going into it for our first watch was like, oh my God, like I'm so pumped to see wherever this goes. And then when I learned what it really was, it was just like, oh my God, that's like, I love this scene so much. It's like my favorite part of the whole movie.
Oh, it's not just werewolves, it's practical werewolves,
Yes.
and it's badass women, like kind of
Yes.
around a campfire with sweet dreams are made of this, just ripping off their
So
human skin.
good.
It's
Oh,
even for me, like knowing it's coming, every time that part happens, I love my partner, my friends who have seen that with me, just
yes.
watching their mouths just go. Like, is
So,
it that scene? It's like so many other ones in this film. It teases you along just until it's not going to reveal anything until it's absolutely ready. And when
yeah.
it does, it's a very decisive moment, and you're just like I'm
It
done.
does. It holds off until like almost where you can't take it anymore. And then it's like you finally get that moment of like relief of like, okay, like, and I have to say, like, whenever people talk about werewolves in general, there's always like, oh, like what's the best transformation? That like slinging off of the skin is like the
Oh,
coolest thing ever. It's so
I
cool. I
I
love it so much.
oh my God. I can say I haven't seen that in another film. Like, I'm thinking
No.
of The Howling and American Werewolf in London, which are like the prototypes, but I've never
Yes.
seen an instance where they're peeling it off like a second skin, like a snake
Like
almost,
it's
and
just
just
there all the
tossing it.
time.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, it's so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
And just the whole campfire aesthetic, Sam watching them kind of devour. It's just that the shot of Sam sitting on the log watching them just devour the crew. Mwah, it's
Yeah, it
perfect.
is beautiful.
It's
I
such a
agree.
great button to that. And
Yeah, yeah.
that's one thing that this film does beautifully is each story ends on the right note, and you're just like
Yeah, exactly.
each and
And then
every
you feel
one.
like you have to take like a second to prepare yourself because like the further that it goes into the story, I felt, at least for me personally, with what I experienced watching it, is each thing it gets more and more like intense for me. Like as I'm
Yeah,
watching the ones, because the werewolf one, you see the girls, you're interacting with them throughout a couple different times, and then it's like this big thing later, and it's just like you just get like more and more into it, like more and more down the rabbit hole as like the film goes on. And I think the closest thing that I can think of, and it's not the same thing, but it's similar enough to I think mention of as far as like the werewolf transformation is. I don't know if have you ever seen Hemlock Grove?
I've seen the first 30 minutes of the first episode. Is it
Oh,
good?
okay. Okay.
I
It
remember
has
I remember enjoying it.
yeah, it has one of my favorite werewolf transformations in it. It's not quite at this level, but it is sort of similar. And it just but I think that this is better. I think that this transformation, and I love that it's almost like they're just taking off like their gloves, like they're like fancy dinner gloves. They're just like whoosh and like swinging it, and it's
It's
just and then
sexy.
it
It's like what?
is. It's oh my God. I love it so much.
It's amazing. And like you said, it's like throughout that whole scene, Laurie's being pursued by this vampire.
Yes.
It's this, obviously it's the principal.
Or the principal. I said
Bites
teacher,
her.
principal. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, they call him Wilkins or something. And
Yeah.
then she puts the cloak on him and tosses him over the
So
trees. So you expect it to be her and Laurie in there, but it's not her. She comes out looking totally fine, and she's kind of like she's more mildly annoyed that he bit her rather than like
like the
petrified.
nerve.
And you're like, what is going on? And then along with Wilkins, you see all the dead, guys that you've been seeing throughout the film, and you're like, what is going on? Who are these people? And for whatever reason, every time I watch this film with even one other person,
Yeah.
all of their dialogue is it's so obvious that they're werewolves, but it's your mind just doesn't even go there for it to click. But you watch it again, you're like, that's what they're actually talking about. Like when they say, when one of them says, "I ate some bad Mexican."
Oh, yes. Yeah. There are lines. Yeah.
There's some of them like, "Mom always said she was the run to the litter," and I'm just like,
There's
Like
clues,
it's
yeah.
right there. It's right there. We don't get it the first time.
Yeah, but I think the reason we don't get it though is because they are introduced as these just like normal like party going like it's because of that initial conversation in the dressing room.
Yeah.
We're introduced to them as these kind of like, they're making their little sexual comments, they're wearing like the really tight dresses, and they're like, talking about going out and finding men to go to this party with, and it sets it's like it's really smart because it
Hmm.
puts you in a trope mindset. So then when all of this other stuff happens, you're not prepared because again, another situation where you think you've got it all figured out. You're like, and then I also like from a first watch was thinking maybe witches at first.
Yep.
And I was so over the moon, pun not intended, when it wasn't. I was like, oh my, I'm telling you, I love what werewolves are like. And now going into it, that first howl that we hear right before we go, I think it's towards like the end of when they get to the rock quarry, I
Yeah.
think it's when like we hear the first howl, but we have no idea what that means yet. No idea. It's so good. That's like my favorite. It's not that any of the others are weak. It's just that one in particular just like sings to me. Like it's so good.
Another great part of misdirection because
Yeah.
that howl happens while Laurie's sister and they're all still human. So
Yes.
you assume that it's happening somewhere in that
Else.
timeline, somewhere else. It
Yep.
doesn't even occur to you that
Nope.
that's the end of the other. It's so good. But you're right though. Like they're introduced as these kind of beautiful sexy women who are on the lookout for some reason. They need a date to go to this party. We don't
Yep.
know. I was thinking witches are like a succubi kind of thing,
Yep. Yep.
like they need, I don't know,
Yeah.
but the first time I saw it, I was thinking full on victim mode. They're going to be preyed upon, and
Yep.
we're also distracted by this vampire in the hood, like the cloaked character. So you're like, what's that about? Like, and how's that going to come into it?
Yeah.
Because we've already seen him bite someone else, and
Mhm.
also another twist on top of it, we don't even realize that that's Mr. Wilkins, and it's just like,
Yeah.
what?
And
It's
that the
so,
teeth aren't even real.
yeah,
They're those little, like, clip-in things. Like, I
yeah.
have better vampire teeth than that. Like, and you're just thinking, like, I'm thinking, and then this is so funny because, like, when they, they take the teeth out and thinking, like, how hard would you have to bite somebody with, like, garbage fangs to make, like oh my god, I don't know. Like, yeah, that whole setup of, like, him being like, when you pan away from, the jack-o'-lantern scene with him and his son,
Yeah.
you kind of just are like, okay, we're like done with him. It's another mindset thing. You're like out of sight, like we're done with that story, we're moving on. It
Mhm.
just doesn't even like, I don't know. It just didn't even hit. Like it didn't even register.
No, and I've seen this with a couple of people who, even once they take off the mask and you see, he even says his name, and for whatever reason they don't get that it's him.
Oh,
And I'm like, they didn't make the connection. So like, oh, so who's the guy in the mask? I was like, it's the principal. Like,
oh yeah,
oh, so I don't know if it's just the makeup or like they make he has the makeup around the eye, so it makes him look a little bit different. Um,
yeah,
but um, but that is an incredible twist.
yeah,
And again, you can't possibly predict that because the way that the film rolls out, it's by that point he's completely out of it.
yeah. We're like done. Like we're thinking we're done with this. Like whatever. I thought, and I think like so, well, what's like one of your favorite segments? I mean, obviously, I know you have like a lot of love for the film, but like, what's like one that's like your favorite?
Oh man, it's got to be one of the bookends, either Mr.
Mhm,
Wilkins with Billy and the whole and his son, who the first time you see it, you really because that one is actually I've been thinking a lot about that one. I saw
mhm,
the film twice within the past week,
mhm.
and he was talking about how Billy his child is always like I wish mom was still alive. Did Mr. Wilkins kill her? Is that what you got from it too?
I've always, yeah, because he's like, I wish mom was still here. Like he's like mocking, making fun of him about it, and it's kind
Yeah.
of like he's like, don't like it almost is like yeah. I kind of that's how I don't know. You know what I always I looked for I remember looking for other markers. So after he buries Billy,
Mm.
he has like he like puts the thing. I'd be like waters it. I'm like looking for all these other things, but I don't think there are any
Not
graves?
in the backyard.
Yeah,
I
like,
don't think so.
I was expecting there to be, though. I was expecting, like,
Multiple instances of a
multiple, like,
burial site.
things, Maybe some of them just looked a little more like older, so they might be like more grown out or something.
Mhm.
But yeah, I know I sort of just assumed that's probably what happened. It's probably left open on purpose, but I that's kind of what I got from it.
That
Um,
I hadn't even considered that, but Dylan Baker is such a great actor that when he says that, there is like a tinge of sadness or regret or something in his
yeah.
delivery when he mentions the wife,
Hmm.
that makes you think, oh, was he responsible? Is that what made him snap, or was he responsible for that?
Yeah.
Um, and then, with him moving menacingly towards Billy with the knife, of course you're thinking he's going to stab. And I have a theory that perhaps the reason why he kills other little boys is that because he wants to kill his son, but because he really looks like he's about to do it, but it's his impulse to stab something else, like i.e. another child rather than his own
Yeah.
son. Um,
That's a
so
good point.
because the way that he's hiding the knife and the way he's moving, it doesn't he's doing that for us, the viewer. He's not
Yeah.
doing that for Billy. So I'm
Yeah.
like, why is he hiding that knife if he's not contemplating this is the night where I'm gonna actually
Yeah.
kill him. So it's probably best for Billy that his father's out of the picture by the end of the night, I should say.
That's a good
Um,
point. Oh
but
yeah, because they do that like one scene where he's like sitting outside on
oh,
I'm just
it's so sad.
it's so
I'm like,
sad.
wait, but like you were in collusion with your dad, but like he doesn't know any better. He's a little
Yeah.
kid, but yeah, to have his dad's like little shirt and he's going as him for the rest of the night, it's so cute. Well,
Yeah.
I say cute, but I'm like
I
relatively
know what
cute,
you mean.
relatively cute in relation to what we've already seen.
Yeah.
But I also love the segment with Mr. Krieg
Yeah.
and Sam because
And
that's where
Sam.
Sam's been on the peripheral this entire time, but for him to actually go ape shit on Mr. Krieg, as we find out, there are multiple reasons why this is happening.
Yep.
It's not just that he's a miser, he's like a Scrooge who doesn't give away candy. He just, you know, scares the hell out of trick or treaters and gives them nothing. But he's
Yeah.
also, of course,
The
the
bus
bus
driver.
driver,
Hmm.
and so he has a lot of this coming. But it reminded me of an episode from Tales of the Dark Side called, I think it's called Trick or Treat or something, where this other guy is just not giving away candy. I think it's another old man alone in his home, and a
Hmm.
goblin kind of keeps terrorizing him. It's
That
more of
does
like a,
sound familiar.
yeah, I cannot for the life of me remember. I think it's called Halloween candy, actually.
Okay.
It's either Trick or Treat or Halloween candy. I
That does
think
sound
they're,
familiar though. I've probably seen it at some point.
it seems like this is kind of an ode to that. I don't know if Michael Dougherty ever
Maybe, yeah.
saw that, but they're similar enough, not in how it pans out, but just in terms of the general premise. But I just love the lunacy of that one because, as you said, yes, the film is out of order, but
Mhm.
each one keeps up the ante. It's not
Yes.
just, we get the serial killer, we get the ghost children, we get werewolves, and now we get the Halloween demon just kind of like going nuts
So
and
good.
beating the shit out of this guy
Yeah. Yeah.
and crawling on walls and shrieking and like his face is just, and it also took me all this time to realize that Sam's face is inspired by a jack-o'-lantern.
Yeah.
I don't know why that took me so long, but I was like, oh, he looks like a
Yeah. Almost like a dehydrated one. Like it's like
very
a
sunken in and like
like
it's got
kind
the
of sunken
triangle
in.
eyes.
Yeah,
Ugh,
and I think the only reason I got that from it was just because when he shoots him and stuff, like the stuff that comes out of him is like pumpkin guts is what it looks like.
which I also didn't notice. I'm sorry to say. I've seen this movie 1,000 times, and I was like, "Oh, is that a pumpkin seed?" Duh. Like, yes, yes, it is, Rob.
Yeah, well, to be fair, there's a lot to absorb with this film,
It's true.
regardless of how many
It's
times
true.
you've seen it. So, in your defense.
Thank you. Now, I think maybe my color settings were off, and I didn't get the orange. I don't know. But when I saw it on the big screen, I was like, "Oh." I'm slow in the uptake, as you can see, but
Yeah.
but it's so good though.
Yeah.
What about
That's a
you? So
really great segment. I love the use of all of these things. Like, and it seems like such a maybe like an obvious choice or like a simple choice to do the candy on the stairs and like, but I loved those little details is a lot of what builds up to set this apart from other things, because it was like, when he falls down the stairs and all of this stuff is like, I don't know, like everything about that set up for that scene with the candy on the steps, like for some reason I was like, there's candy on the steps. Like I was just so impressed by that, like little, like, I don't know, those moment, like little things like that throughout all of the segments in this film are just like really just like the bread and butter of like what make it so special, because it adds to what we're talking about with the atmosphere and the colors and like everything. And it's just, that was like one of like the such a small detail, but it stuck out to me so much when I saw this. Like, I don't know, I thought it was special. I like it.
No, totally. There's such loving detail, and I think that Michael Dougherty, for those, I'm sure you guys know, it's like he wrote and directed the film for the viewers out there. But he,
Yes.
like you know who he is. Well, I'm like, um, but I believe that he was born the week of Halloween or the week like a few
Oh,
days
I didn't know
before or
that. Okay.
after, and so
Yeah.
he's been obsessed with the holiday ever since he was a child, and that I
Love
think
it.
that shows in the set
Yes.
design, the loving detail, and like you said, anything could have tripped. Like Sam could have just held out his foot and tripped the guy down the stairs. To have it be like an avalanche of candy, like
It
what could be
needs,
better?
yeah, I
It
mean,
needs to be
seriously.
that.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
every frame of this film is just you can pause it and just notice, a jack lantern that you hadn't seen before. Like the shot of Lori en route to the campfire, with
Yes.
that like kind of the trail lined with jack lanterns. Again, there's like a weird beauty, like the shot of Rhonda exiting the elevator into like that foggy, kind of water bank area.
So good.
Amazing. Every like,
Yeah.
there's so many good shots. And I don't have the cinematographer's name or the or art director's name, but
Oh,
they
yeah, I don't
deserve
know
a
either.
lot of props too because
Mhm.
they understood the assignment.
Yes, I agree. Definitely brought A game for this movie. I think and it's never like, sometimes when you see things, especially when there is so much like this going on in a film, whether it's an anthology or not, or even if it's not necessarily horror, um, when you have things that are really stunning or really like just really well done or just really captivating, it usually has like a self-sacrifice at some point, because you usually get to a point of the film where like something is kind of lacking or
Yeah.
less engaging. And this is just, I mean, so like 100 across the board for every time that, and then I like watching it, like other than all the bad stuff that's happening, I'm like, I wish my town had been like that, like covered in all of that. Look, like Halloween Town. Like I wish it had been
It looks
like this.
incredible.
Yeah,
I want to live in Warren Valley,
I
Ohio.
know.
It looks ideal. I will go there every October. I'll stay the entire month and I'll come back to where I live.
Back to
Uh,
reality, yeah. But I love
it's
it.
so good.
It just is so like festive and fun. So that's our thoughts on Trick or Treat and all the other things that I cut out of this episode and made into another one that you don't know anything about. So that was we totally stayed on topic the entire conversation.
There was not one word that was about any other film or franchise or series.
Not at all.
Yes.
Definitely not for like an hour after.
No, right, right. It's
um
literally sunrise right now.
That's right. Yeah, so Robby Horror does horror movie reviews. I'm going to link all of his information in the description for this episode so you can check him out, give him a follow. I think you said you're primarily do posting on stuff on Instagram, yes?
Correct. Yeah, I do like just memes, but I try to do, if I see something that I either loved or didn't like or just want to talk about, sometimes I do retro reviews. So I'll wake up and be like,
Oh,
let me do an essay on Jaws or Friday the
oh,
13th or something like that. And yeah,
cool.
I try to write as much as I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So I will, yeah, I'll put all of his stuff in the description for this episode, so that you can check that out. And yeah, that's all I have for this one. Thanks for hanging out with us on this Saturday. Have a good rest of your weekend. Happy Halloween.
Happy
Halloween's in
Halloween,
2 days.
humans. Woo!
Yeah. By the time you're watching this, 2 more days till Halloween.
Halloween. Oh no, my God. No, it's gonna be in my head now.
I'm gonna be
Ah,
mad if YouTube copyrights it. I'm gonna be like, come on, man. 2 seconds.
it was one
Yeah.
second of the song. Come on.
I know. Yeah, so 2 more days. Yay.
Yes.
So yeah, I hope you guys have a great Halloween. Enjoy it. Don't, do fun things and be safe and all that. And have a good week coming up. And I'll see you in the next one.